Hello and welcome to Kids Club. Today's project is nature paintings. So you're going to need this list of supplies. I will also include them in the description of the video. You're going to want paper, paints, masking tape, crayons, leaves of whatever shape and sizes you want to use, grasses or flowers, a shoe box if you have one, or another box that will fit a piece of paper into it, pine cones or sweet gums. I will be rolling those around in paint later. The projects that we're going to be doing are paint around leaves. We're going to create a silhouette. It's going to be really cool. Pine cone painting. So that's what the shoebox, the paints, and the pine cones or sweet gums are for. And we're also going to be doing leaf rubbings. So that's what the crayons are for. So keep in mind, if you use any materials out from nature, please don't pick them up during any kind of nature walks that you have. Just try to find what's in your backyard. We have to leave the ones out in the wild for other wild animals and other plants. Also, if you paint on any of the leaves or grasses or the pine cones, please don't put them back outside. Put them in the trash can. We don't want any animals to get sick if they eat the paint. So have a great time with these projects and post them on Facebook and then tag us in it. So have fun and enjoy creating.
Okay, so for this crafter, you're going to need a leaf of whatever size you'd like. The veinier, the better. So if that vein sticks up, it's a better leaf for this project. Don't mind the holes if it's got holes. And you'll also need a white or colored piece of paper. You're going to lay down your leaf, vein side up, and then take your paper and just set it over the top of it. I like to kind of smooth it down so then my leaf lays nice and flat. And then you're going to take whatever colors that you'd like. The less paper you have on your crown, the better. Or, if you have them, homemade crowns. These are super easy to make. You just melt some broken crowns in the microwave or in the oven for a little bit. And then originally I used cupcake liners. And then this is how small they've gotten. So I'm going to use this, and then I will show you what it looks like with the regular crown. So you can kind of feel your leaf, and then just take your crayon and just rub right over the top of it. You can see the outline, and there's the veins of your leaf. See, and then of course the closer to the stem you get, the bigger your veins get. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to green. Do the same thing. And you don't need a lot of pressure. The more pressure you use, the darker your color or your page will be, which that is completely up to you, but you don't have to use a lot. You can just kind of rub over the top of it, but sometimes your crowns mark a little lighter, so you have to use a little bit more pressure. So I've almost reached the end of my leaf. I'm just going to go up here and color the edges until I run out of edge. And then of course you can kind of feel your stem. Or if you'd like to take that stem off at the beginning, you're welcome to also. But there's my stem. So, and then you can go in and decorate it however you want to. You can outline it and make it actually look like your full leaf. If you want to put little faces on it, you can of course do that. Or just cut it out like the way it is and create a collage with it. So, there's how to do a leaf rubbing. For this project, you're going to need a couple of things. You're going to want a white piece of paper or any colored piece of paper that you'd like to use. You're going to need some paints. I'm using the Art 101 acrylics from Five Below. They have a really neat metallic look to them, so I'm going to use these along with some leaves, whatever size you want to. This one's relatively big. I mean, there's my hand, so it can be however big you want to. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to paint around this one, and then I'm actually going to take a smaller one and overlay it, kind of like that, and then do it in a different color. So, alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm also using the sponge brush. I love these little brushes because you can use them for all sorts of different things. You can use them for painting or dusting off sand or anything like that. If your leaf has any kind of tear in it, you can either not worry about it, or if you'd like to, I use a lot of masking tape in my projects. You can just tape that down, not a big deal. And then you have one whole leaf, and then that's the masking tape that I'm using. So you're gonna need quite a bit of paint for this. So then you go ahead and just get started. I like to start at the tip of my leaf and just dot, dot, dot all the way around. As you can see, I'm getting it on the leaf along the sides. And you can do it as bold or as light as you want to. This is completely up to you. It is your painting, not anybody else's. So, and of course you can take as much time as you want to. You can do this with other kinds of brushes, but I like the sponge because it's got that nice little chisel shape to it. And then that way you can kind of just dab it and drag it. I would definitely dab with this brush. I wouldn't try smearing it because then it just soaks it up, and we don't want that. We want it to actually have a dabbed look to it. So, almost there. Oops. Make sure it doesn't slip away. You can always tape down bits and pieces of your leaf if you need to, and then come back and remove it as you're going around your leaf. But that's another nice thing about the chisel brush, and the chisel like that, is that you can just kind of go around the edges and not worry about scooping it as much. Almost there. Whoops. It unfolded on me. There we go. And almost done. So then once you take it off, it looks like a leaf. You can, of course, probably should have done my stem. So let me go back. Let's do my stem real quick. Grab some more paint real quick. You're gonna need, like I said, you're gonna need quite a bit of paint with this. So be ready for that. Alright, so there's your outline. So then you can rinse your brush in between, or you can do like I'm going to do, and I'm just going to go ahead and take my little one. And you can put it anywhere you want to. You can put it off to the side, you can put it down on either side. I think I'm going to do mine right in the middle, just for fun. And then I'm not going to rinse my brush, I'm just going to kind of wipe it off. Since I'm using another metallic color, I would love to see what it looks like as kind of blended. So here we go. And don't worry if you get too much paint in one spot, you can just come back, kind of dab it up with your brush. And so you can kind of see where some of that gold has mixed with the purple that I'm using. I love that. So, but it is completely up to you. If you don't want any color mixed in with the second color that you use, that is no worries. You can go ahead and you rinse your brush. Now these leaves came from a tree from a friend. Oops. Just keep in mind, please, if you're going to paint around something like this, once you have paint on it, please don't put it back outside. It's not good for the animals to ingest. And then on top of that, if you're out and about and you're like, ooh, that's a pretty leaf, but you're in a park or a nature area, leave it there, okay? We have to respect our outdoor little friends. So, all right. So then you take this off. And then there's your second leaf. And of course you can go in and decorate it with the veins and everything using a pencil, crayon, marker, whatever you'd like to, and get as creative as you want. This is just the outline. and then it is completely up to you. So there is how you do the paint outline. Okay, so for this project, you're going to want a couple of different materials also. You're going to want Scotch tape, or I'm sorry, masking tape. You could probably use Scotch tape, but I like masking tape. It's easy to tear whenever you're on the go. You don't need scissors for it or anything like that. That being said, we do need a pair of scissors if you're going to cut your different vegetation. And then you're going to want different kinds of grasses or leaves or whatever you want to. We're going to make our own paintbrush at this point. So I thought this was perfect. This is yellow sedge and it was growing in my backyard. So I'm like, it already looks like a paintbrush. So we'll give it a try and see what we can find out if it'll hold up to the test or not. So I made sure I cut the stalk nice and long. We let it grow for quite a while, so it got nice and tall. But as you can see, it's got this little bend here, so I'm going to cut to make it nice and straight again. And then I'm going to cut off the little bitty strings, or the little bitty blades of grass. Give me 1 second. And then that way, whenever I dip it into my paint, it won't drag, those extra pieces won't drag through it. So there it is. And as you can tell, I've got several others, so I'm going to do one more. I'll probably do the smaller one. Same thing. I'm going to snip the little pieces so they don't drag through. I'll set those to the side. Whatever pieces of vegetation or plant that you don't get paint on, please put them back outside. They'll get eaten or reused by nature, so you don't have to worry about wasting them. Once you put paint on it though, please don't put it back outside. Alright, so I'm going to take them and put them side by side. I'm going to take some masking tape. Just a little piece, you don't need a very big piece. Just to tape those two pieces together. So, get that torn. And then, I'm going to tape them together. Probably could have even used a much shorter piece, but that's okay. There we go. So I got my paintbrush right there. I'm going to come over to my paint and just dab, dab, dab. And then all over it. And then if you want to get, as you can see, I'm flaking off little seeds too. If you wanted to get another blade of grass or something like that, you can go back to the pieces that you've cut off and tape them back on there. It would add an extra element of texture, which would be really cool. I'm going to go ahead and come back to my paint and kind of drag it through. And then come back and continue dabbing. So this is more just for fun. And come back and go through my different colors. Again, I was using an acrylic paint. There we go. Starting to look a little bit more like some fireworks or just speckles. It's whatever you want to do. And it will change between the different varieties of grasses or plant matter that you use. I'm going to go ahead and since I've got them, I'm going to put another one on there. So, I'm going to take this and instead of cutting these all the way off, I'm just going to snip them to where they are exactly the same length as the head of the sedge. And then I'm going to take another piece of masking tape, a lot shorter piece this time, and I'm going to go ahead and tape it together. There we go. There we go. Now, if you happen to find feathers or something like that, this would be a good time to add feathers. You know what? I'm going to put a piece of masking tape right where my thumbs are and make it a little stiffer. But this would be a good time if you find feathers or anything like that. They would also make an excellent paintbrush. The only thing I would say not to do is don't use any wildflowers that you find in a park or the grass out in between the roads or anything like that. Alright, so there's our stiffer paintbrush. I'm going to go back to my paint, kind of dab it and roll it through, and then just come back to my paper. So as you can see, this is more about painting more of an explosion looking or dabbing the different spots rather than coverage, which is absolutely fine. It's completely whatever you want to do. So, kind of gives it that speckled look. You could also, let's try this, really get it covered and then tap, tap, tap. You get a little bit of a splatter to it. Of course, you got to be careful. This piece is trying to come out or break off, so just watch out for that. All right, so let's set that to the side. And then, if you'll stay tuned, we'll also see how you can paint with a pine cone. So, stay tuned. For this project, you're going to need a couple different things. You're going to need a white piece of paper, whatever size you'd like to. Masking tape. If your box is bigger than your piece of paper, I am using an Amazon box because that's what I had handy. But if you have a shoe box, that's even better because your 8 by 11.5 or so piece of paper will fit perfectly on the inside. So we are going to be and you're also going to need paints and pine cones. You can find these, as you can tell, some of these came from a craft store, so they've got a little bit of glitter on them, which is absolutely fine. And I've got some broken ones, which is great, because then they'll add a different texture to my painting. You can find these outside also, underneath your pine trees. The smaller ones, we'll see how they handle, but of course you can use the bigger ones. The size really doesn't matter on this project. I'm also using acrylic paint. So the Five Below Art 101 acrylic paint, and I'm also using Art Time Tempera paint. So this one is one of them is water washable, and the other one may stain your clothes. So I advise wearing a paint smock, apron, or just old clothes, whatever you don't mind getting paint on. So once you have your paper in place, go ahead and just kind of drip paint wherever you would like. I'm going to use 2 different blues, red and white. So just a little bit of paint there, because you just have to think we're going to be rolling our pine cones through it. So make sure your paint's all shook up if you're using finger paint or tempera paint. And if you can do this project outside, that's even better because it is going to make a mess. Alright, do a little bit of white. Of course, you can't really see the white on the paper itself, but once it mixes with our other colors, that'll be a really cool effect. Just 4 dots each, really. And then I'm going to use a little bit of this acrylic also. It's a lighter blue, so we'll see what it looks like in the end. Let's do another dot up here. Alright. So make sure you get the caps back on all your paints. And then this is the time where you're going to, I'm just going to toss all my pine cones in here. It really doesn't matter where they go because it's going to be all over the place. Alright, so we're going to shut the box and give it a shake. Now, whenever you're shaking your box, make sure you actually roll them around on the bottom rather than up and down, because you never know. You don't really want to paint the top of your box. You'd rather paint the inside of the paper. It really ends up like a splatter art, which I love. You can use this if you decide to do it on cardstock or something. Oh, look, I missed some white paint. I may have to go back and reshake my box. But if you decide to do this on like cardstock or another piece of cardboard or something like that, you can decorate and use it for whatever you'd like to. If you have a binder and you'd like to create a splatter artwork for it, for the front sleeve, that'd be awesome, or a folder or something like that. Just get creative with it and have fun. And like I said, definitely make sure you try to do this one outside if you have an open top box, because it could make a mess. And also, these pine cones, once they have paint on, please don't put them back outside for the animals to eat. That'll make them sick. So, and that is how we paint with pine cones.